Hello there, and welcome to Smarter Drivers for Safer Roads. Throughout this series, we're going to be going through some easy repairs that anyone should be able to do themselves to save some money and hopefully make you a better and safer driver. First repair we're going to be looking at today is an oil change. It's a very simple process that your car will usually need every roughly 3 to 5 months. And the first thing you're going to want to do when needing an oil change is check your oil level. This helps to see if you have any leaks or if you have anything bad inside of your oil pan. So what you're going to do is locate the dipstick. On my car, it's this white handle right there that I found. Most cars, it's fairly easy to find, and it'll say oil on top. Now you're going to want to pull it out, and then you're going to want to wipe it off of any oil that is currently on it, and then dip it right back in. This helps in ensuring that you're getting the true oil level, not something that is spilled over the top over time. Now there are 2 notches that you're going to want to make sure your oil is in between, as well as it looking clean and good. Mine was a little overfull. That's purely because it was sitting for a long time. Usually your car will indicate if you need an oil change if you have a newer model. If not, then you should be doing one every about 3 months or 6,000 miles. Now, the next thing you're going to want to figure out is what type of oil your car uses. Now, typically you can just Google what type of oil your car uses, but if you don't have access to that for whatever reason, even though you're on YouTube right now, typically it will say what type of oil your car uses either somewhere on the engine block or right on the cap where you're going to fill your new oil. Now, that is the cap for mine. Typically it's going to be right on the engine block. It's going to be really easy to see. It's going to say something like oil, just like it says right on that one, or oil filler. Typically it will say on this cap what type of oil it uses. My car is one of the few that doesn't, so I just Googled what type of oil this car uses. It uses 5W30. Some typical oils are 5W30, 5W20, and then there's full synthetic, half synthetic. There's a lot of different types of oil. My car recommended a full synthetic 5W30. So I went to the store, I found out how much it took by Googling it, and then I bought some 5 liters of 5W30 oil. Another thing you're going to need for an oil change is a new oil filter. Now, to find out which type of oil filter your car uses, you can typically ask whatever shop you buy it from, or you can just Google what type of oil filter your car uses. So you find that out, you go to the store, you pick some up, pick up the oil, and then you essentially have all of the new parts that you're going to need for an oil change. As well as the new parts, you are going to need to pick up a couple different tools to work on it. One of the main ones is a oil drip pan. You can essentially use anything that fits under your car as an oil drip pan. You just have to make sure that it can contain as much oil as your car takes so that you don't have any spills. You should also lay out some towels or some oil collectors underneath your car just in case you do have some spillage, just so that it can help make sure you don't get your garage all dirty. Now the next thing you're going to want to do is set up the jack stand underneath the car. Jack is going to go right on this metal bar that you see right underneath the sides of each of your car. It will be fairly visible on most every car. It usually has a little cutout on it so that you can see where to put the jack stands. And after you get that up, you're going to want to slide at least 2 stands underneath your car. And that's just to make sure that if one stand fails, your car doesn't fall on top of you while you're working on it. You always want to make sure you have 2 points that the car is resting on. And you never want to leave it resting on the jack stand that has wheels that you lift the car up on, because those have failed in the past. Those can just slip out from under you, and then there's nothing holding up your car. You want to set up the jack stands that have nothing under them. Make sure you have at least 2 of them under your car. Just like that, you can see I have 2 jack stands. They're both making contact with the car, and it's important that they're making contact so that if the car does fall, it doesn't cause it to slip. After that, you're going to want to get under your car. You're going to want to locate your oil pan. It's typically the most easily accessible screw that you see, and that's going to be your oil plug. You're going to want to twist off that oil plug and make sure that the drain bucket is underneath you when you do that, because it can spill before the plug comes off. And you're going to want to make sure that you don't get any of that on the floor of your garage. After getting that drip panel set up and you located your oil plug, You're going to want to find a socket that fits right onto that, and then loosen it up, just like you see in this video. After getting it fairly loose, you're going to want to make sure that you don't use the socket to get it all of the way off, because that'll cause the oil to spill all over your hands, all over your socket, and your garage floor. So you're going to want to loosen it as much as you can with the socket without it coming all the way off. And then after you get it to a point where you can loosen it by hand, you're going to want to stop using the socket. You're going to want to go in there with your hand and get it all the way out. And then you're going to want to try to not let the oil plug drop into the oil pan, because then you're going to have to dig around for it and look for it, and it's a pain. So you're going to want to take out that oil plug, set it to the side, and typically you're going to want to find a new gasket for that oil plug and put that on before putting it on. You don't have to necessarily get a new gasket, but it is recommended so that the car can remain in its best shape. After that, you're going to want to locate your oil filter. Now, a lot of cars have them above the hood. A lot of cars have them underneath it. Typically, though, they all should be tightened by hand and be able to loosen by hand. So you're going to want to locate it. You can try first to get it off with your hand. Now, if that doesn't work, because a lot of shops do it too tight, what you can do is grab a leather belt. You can wrap it right around that oil filter. I want to make sure it's facing the right direction so that it is loosening it, going to the left. You want to put it on there, make sure it's tight, and then crank it until it can pop loose. Now, after you pop it loose with the belt, you should be able to just get your hand under there and use your hand to loosen it up. Now, I would recommend wearing gloves for that part, because oil filters do tend to leak out of the top very often when you're doing it with your hand. In my case, it didn't really do it, as my car was mostly drained out of oil and it hadn't been running in probably 20 years. But after you do that, you're going to want to grab your new oil filter. You're going to want to take a bit of the oil from inside of the old oil filter screw. You want to rub it right on the outside of the gasket. That's just to help it seal better, to make sure you don't have any cracks in the gasket, and make sure that it adheres right to where the oil filter goes. And then you're going to want to just tighten that up by hand. You don't need to use any tool or anything to get the oil filter tight. It should just be tightened by hand. You're going to want to get it really nice and taut, and then go about another half turn or another full turn. And then that's essentially all you need to do to change the oil filter on that. Now, by the time you change that, the oil should be right about done draining in the other part of your car. So you can get back under the oil pan, take the oil drain plug, and screw it right back on there. There typically isn't really a torque spec that you need to make sure the car fits on this. You should just be able to tighten it by hand on there, and then get a socket back under there and tighten it the rest of the way that you need. So now what you're seeing here is me struggling to get it back on, because there is a lot of oil and buildup inside the threads of that. It's nothing really to be worried about. It's not going to strip your bolt or anything like that. You just want to get it nice and screwed on, make sure that it's not stripping it, and then you can go ahead and grab your socket and tighten it the rest of the way down that you need. You're going to want to make sure that the drain plug is nice and tight on there. You don't want to make it too tight, because that can cause the gasket underneath it to crack and break. You're going to want to get it tight and then just do another little half or quarter turn on there. And after that, you can go ahead and get out from under your car, because there's nothing else you need to do under there. Then you're going to want to grab your oil. A lot of these oils come with a filter, but if they don't, just grab a cheapo little filter that you find at the shop and then start filling her up. Now, I bought 5 liters of my oil. Now, a lot of cars use different amounts and different types. Mine used 4.5 liters of oil, so I'm going to make sure try not to overfill it. Overfilling oil typically won't lead to any problems. It's recommended to put a bit more than what's recommended for your car in, just to make sure that if there are any leaks or any oil burn off, that your car doesn't immediately start running bad right after you change the oil. Now, after you get the right amount of oil in your car, you have essentially completed your entire oil change. Now, typically what you're going to want to do is let the car run for about 2 to 3 minutes just let the oil filter through the engine, just let the new oil make sure it's reaching every single compartment so that you don't immediately start driving away and then have some problems. But after that, you're essentially done with your oil change. You want to make note of the mileage on your car to make sure that you get a new one around every 6,000 miles. Make sure your car keeps running right. You want to clean up any of the oil spots that you got on your engine bay. And then take out the dipstick and make sure to wipe it off and then put it back in, just to ensure that your new oil is at the correct level for your car. As you can see, mine is right between the notches, so that's perfect. And then you're done with your oil change.